great exhibitions, amazing technology downstairs, but Australia is not in a position to buy or commit to any of it. Will you look at lifting the defence budget beyond 2% GDP as the defence has been crying out for?
Thank you for the questions. Firstly, the comments that we see in the media today are just not true. They're not true, and they really bear a pretty scant relationship to the truth. The fact of the matter is that since coming to power, we have not only committed and fulfilled the commitment of maintaining defence spending on the growth trajectory that we inherited from the former government, we've increased it by 10%. So whereas the former government had defence spending going to 2.1% of GDP in 2032, we have now put defence spending on a pathway to 2.3% of GDP. So there is a significant growth in defence spending above the growth level that we inherited, even above the growth level that we committed to at the last election. So the comments that have been made are just plain wrong. And the fact of the matter is that when we came to power, a full quarter of what defence was expected to procure in its future, there was no money for. And that's because the former government was in the habit of announcing big programs without allocating any money to them, or certainly not the money needed to provide for those programs. We had the Hunter program over time, over budget. Offshore patrol vessels over time, over budget. A revolving door of ministers which led to a lost decade in terms of our submarine future capability, which gave rise to a capability gap which we have now filled. So that is the facts of what we inherited and the facts of what we are now doing. We are properly funding the program for Australia acquiring nuclear-powered submarines. Guided weapons, so that we have a long-range strike capability. We've doubled the funding for that so that we actually are putting that on a meaningful trajectory where we will be manufacturing missiles in this country in 2 years' time, which is certainly not what was on the cards previously. So the statements that are made are wrong. There are difficult decisions that we have made. And there are difficult decisions that we have made because we want to have a focused defence force which has the capacity to engage in impactful projection. There was no serious strategic thinking about what our defence force was meant to do for a decade. And in focusing our defence force, there are difficult decisions, and we make no apology for that. But the option is to let our defence force languish as it had been prior to us taking government. We are getting the defence budget back in order. We are funding it well beyond what we inherited, and we are giving the defence force the focus it needs.
What about the specific